veterans. I'm here with Mark Youngquist from the Marine Corps and Army Reserve and National Guard. And I'm also joined with Kevin Williams, who has served in the U.S. Navy and the Marine Corps. So, welcome. Thank you for being here. So my first question I have for you is, did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted in 1969.
I enlisted in 1987.
Okay, and why did you enlist?
Well, why did I enlist? That's a good question. Well, I grew up in Chicago and kind of wanted to get away from that environment. I wanted to make my life better, and I didn't see that many opportunities in Chicago at the time. And so the military seemed like a good place to go. So I joined the United States Navy.
At the time, 1969, I was coming out of high school. I wasn't all that great a student. The job prospects weren't all that good. So I enlisted in the Marines with a long-term goal of, being funded by the GI Bill to go to college.
Mm-hmm. And so why did you choose the branches you chose?
I chose the Marines because I was looking for a challenge, and I wanted to be with a good group.
And you had joined the Navy originally. You
Yes.
originally did not want to be a part of the Marines, but you ended up having an affiliation with the Marines. Can you elaborate?
Well, yes, I wanted to. When I saw the Navy guys in the uniform, they were nice and white, clean, and I'm thinking this is great, And so I chose to become a hospital corpsman. So I figured that I would spend a lot of time just working in a nice, clean hospital setting. But then they put out a request for some of us to go to field medical service school. And so since they were asking for volunteers, I figured I'll just keep my hand down. And so I will have to go. And then they started choosing classes one at a time. So this class was going to go, this class was going to go, and I was part of the class that went to field medical service school. So what I realized at that point, wherever there's a Marine or Marine unit, they need hospital corpsmen to help them out because we are the medical. So once I became a field medic, I got attached to the Marine unit. So then I became part of the Marines. And wherever my unit went, I went.
And so, can you two elaborate on some of the assignments in your branches and during your service?
My initial deployment was to go to Vietnam. I got sidetracked to being stationed in Okinawa, which lasted about 2 weeks, and then we moved south to the Philippines and also to Vietnam. And we spent a lot of time training in the Philippines. And our first real assignment was to go to a village in the Philippines that had been hit by a typhoon and had been leveled, and they needed medical help. The Navy corpsmen, they needed Marines to go around and search for people and help put up tents and bring them food. So as opposed to having a combat assignment as my first mission, it was a humanitarian assignment. Going from there, we stayed in training most of the time as the Vietnam War was ending. And then years later, I went back into an Army Reserve unit, which was a training unit, a drill sergeant unit out of Waterbury, Connecticut. And 2 years later, I went over to a military police company up in Hartford in the National Guard. And we ended up deploying to Panama, later on to the Dominican Republic on another humanitarian mission. Then we were activated after 9/11 for the airports and the nuclear facilities in Connecticut. And after we came off that, 7 months later, we were activated to go to Iraq, February 7th of 2003. We spent a year in Baghdad.
My assignments, I started off in the Great Lakes boot camp. After that, I went to San Diego, California. But I made a little stop in Camp Pendleton first. That's where the Field Medical Service School was. Like I said, after that, I went to San Diego. I became a OR technician. And I specialized in ENT, which is ears, nose, and throat. I did that for about 10 years. After that, I went to Long Beach, California. While I was in Long Beach, I got deployed to Iraq, and that's where I spent my time with the Marines. After Long
awarded any medals or citations for your service?
Over the years, yes, I got a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, we have, too many medals to count. But yeah, we have a lot of medals and citations.
And while you were serving, how often were you able to communicate with your family?
Well, like we were talking before, going in 1969, the communication wasn't anything like it is today. The letters would take 2 weeks to get back and forth. Phone calls were almost unheard of. Of course, there was no internet back then, so pretty much it was letter writing. Then years later, we deployed to Iraq, and next thing you know, you're able to do FaceTime and instant emails, and they had phone banks for us. Not initially, but after we had been there close to 9 months, they set up some very good communications. And it was actually tougher with good communications because people expected to hear from you every day, and if they didn't hear from you, they thought something was wrong. And we went out one day, and we were just doing something routine in Baghdad, and we had to stay out a little extra time. And this one soldier was really getting nervous and agitated. We weren't doing anything that was perceived as dangerous. What's the matter? He goes, well, we're staying out a couple extra hours. Okay, we're going to be back. It won't be dark. Nothing's going on. Nothing's on the radio. He goes, yeah, but I told my mom I'd call her at 4 o'clock, and we're not getting back till 6. She's going to think something happened. So after that, it was, formation. Don't make promises like that. Because people, I can understand they're watching the news, and there's instantaneous news now with all the different news channels, and something goes wrong, they're going to figure it's you. So it wasn't good back then in this 1969. I'm not so sure it's any better with instantaneous communications. Doc?
Well, I went through some of the same challenges you did. We made phone calls when we could, and as he said before, you don't make promises to family as far as when you're going to call, because you don't know when you're going to be able to use the phone. As far as, let's say, writing letters and getting mail, the interesting thing was that sometimes, let's say, people back in the States, when they sent you something, they would send you chocolates, but by the time those chocolates got to you, or whatever, they were like all over the box. They were melted, and it was a mess. But the thought was great, but it was a mess on my end, so it's all good.
So while you were serving, was there anything that you kept with you for good luck?
On the second deployment, I had a little American flag that flew from my boat back here in the Salmon River, right out here in Haddam Neck. That was always in my left cargo pocket. There was a little Bible that I'd been given by I can't remember the name of the group. I had it since 1969. That went to Baghdad with me, and somebody gave me a St. Christopher, and those three were always together in my left cargo pocket.
Well, I carried plenty of ammo because I'm not trying to run out of bullets, and I carried plenty of Campbell's vegetable beef soup because I'm not going to starve you. So those things were most important to me, and of course my medical supplies, of course.
When you enlisted, what did service mean to you, and has your definition of service changed at all over the years?
Oh boy. Doc, you got something there?
What does service mean to me? To me, service means, well, first of all, I understand that freedom is not free. Someone has to pay the price. Someone has to stand up and be on the front lines to do what's necessary for us to maintain this lifestyle. And I had the opportunity to answer that call. Of course, there were some benefits for me as well, as far as educational benefits and camaraderie and whatnot.
the service, especially the ones, well, I know the ones most recently better because I knew them longer. And a lot of them used being in the military police to become law enforcement officers. We ended up with 3 attorneys out of our company, 1 doctor, 1 physician's assistant, an FBI agent, a special agent for immigrations and customs. Another one is now working for NCIS. So a lot of the service they did, they gained a lot from that. A lot of them used it to go to college. So there was service there, but there was also something that came